Welcome back to New Day. The death of 17-year-old Jordan Davis and the trial of Michael Dunn has sparked a national debate about self-defense laws and race and violence in America. But to Jordan Davis's parents, this starts about what matters most, their son, and honoring his legacy. Joining us now are Jordan Davis's parents, Lucia McBath and Ron Davis. Thank you both for joining us. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances. And while I know you have so much that you want to discuss that matters to people in this debate, I have to start with your son. So many of us have only gotten to know him through how his life was taken. But remind us of who was lost. Remind us what made him special, Lucia.
Jordan was a fun-loving, very compassionate, sensitive child. He spent a lot of time making friends. He made them very, very easily. I was often amazed at how quickly he would make friends. We would be in an environment where we didn't know anybody, and within 10, 15 minutes, Mom, this is my new friend. I made a new friend. He was a very genuine personality. And he loved people. He really loved people. I used to say to him all the time, I think you're going to be a social activist or a politician or something, because he was always able to bring people together.
Why would you wish that on him?
I know.
You just said he was a good person and he liked people. You do not need to be in a position to defend your son. That is patently wrong. However, when I heard that verdict and the assumptions that must be made, whether it's 2 or 3 jurors, that, well, maybe Michael Dunn did think there was a gun, and maybe they did get rid of it. That makes assumptions about the kids in the car. What do you want people to know about the kids who were in that car, specifically your son, and the chance that he had a weapon and that they then got rid of it?
The first thing is that if either of those kids had a weapon, or they had trouble with the law, if they had been arrested, it would have all come out in court, because believe me, the defense attorney was just digging for something on those children, to victimize the children again. And those were good kids. He found out through digging. He had a private investigator. These were good kids. These kids were not gangsters. They were not thugs, as they say. And so during the trial, they kept trying to turn it around to, well, prove you're not a thug, or prove that you're not a gangster. Well, why should we have to do that? It's up to you to prove the character of the person that shot my son. They never went to his character. Now all the things are coming out about his character and what he's done in the past. We find that he put a gun up to his ex-wife's head and all these other things. So I think we should stop victimizing the victims at this point.
So the verdict comes. I know I spoke to Angela Corey, the prosecutor. She said they had talked to you. You had your own counsel who prepared you, especially as the deliberations went on, that there may be dissatisfaction. When you heard the verdict, guilty, 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 guilty for missing, we can't decide for killing Jordan. What sense?
We were prepared for that. Definitely, counsel had prepared us for that very thing. They had prepared us for the fact that the problem would be Jordan's charge alone. So we were prepared for that. There again, for us, that's the ambiguity with the law. The jury instructions, including the stand your ground, legislation that all involved, that is the ambiguity. That is the problem with the law. So for the jurors, they're having to look at that aspect of their jury instructions and utilize that to make a decision about Jordan.
Now, juror number 4 comes out. She tries to speak about it, going and say, we had a lot of disagreements, and we were fighting over it, trying to get it right. We worked very hard. Do you believe the jury simply got it wrong? Do you believe the prosecutor had the wrong strategy? Or do you believe, I think suggesting what you were just talking about, that this is about the law and this is about culture?
Yeah, this is the law, because the instructions that they give the jury, they have a choice of using, as John Guy said, common sense. Then you look at the law, and that's not the same. Common sense and the law is not the same thing, unfortunately, because you look at the first charge, first-degree murder, you have to show premeditation. Now, under the law, premeditation could be 2 or 3 seconds. That could be premeditation.
Could be getting the gun out of the glove box.
Exactly. And see, so under the law, but to the layman, premeditation is if you go home to get a gun, or you go in your car separately to get a gun, or you plan something. To us, that's premeditation, but to the law, it could be 3 seconds.
And you say common sense. I'm sure one of the first lessons you had with your son, especially because he's African American, was, hey, if somebody gets on you, Get away from it.
Right.
Don't match ugly with ugly.
Right.
Find a way out of a situation. Don't tell me he hit you first. These are the things.
Exactly.
But in the law, the duty to retreat, to find a nonviolent way out is removed
It's
in Florida.
removed.
How important do you think that is?
That is the key. That is the most crucial element of the stand your ground law, because you are giving the criminal the authority, empowering the criminal to do whatever they want to do with no duty to be responsible or accountable for backing away from the confrontation.
Right.
Even though the law will stay the same, do you want this retried by Angela Corey?
Yes, we do.
I assume
Yes.
we means both, yes.
Yes.
We means both. We
Right.
absolutely.
Even though I know that this has to be horrible for you, because every day you leave that courtroom and there's so much ugliness and hostility and doubt, then you go home and your son is not there.
Right.
What gives you the strength to sit through this again?
Because the world needs to know that Jordan Davis did nothing wrong, and that this man is guilty of killing our son, of murdering our son. And the law, the way it is now, creates hung juries, you know, and that's what we have here. And so what we want to do is go to Tallahassee. We're going to go to Tallahassee, to the state capitol, and we're going to try to get the stand your ground law rewritten. And we'll probably do that in March, because it needs to be rewritten. Had our son been by himself, think about this, Chris, if our son was by himself and there were no witnesses, would he have justice ever? We have witnesses, independent witnesses. We have 3 boys in the car. We have all types of evidence. But yet, that stand your ground instruction always keeps people wondering whether it's guilty or not guilty.
So you guys, as a point of advocacy here, you're dividing and conquering, because you have 2 issues. You have the culture.
Yes,
Why
sir.
are we so quick to use guns?
Yes, sir.
Why is that seen as a reasonable reaction
Exactly.
to someone without a gun, or even if they do have a gun? Why is that our first instinct? And then the law.
Right.
And you want both addressed.
Yes, sir.
Yes, absolutely. It has to, they both have to be addressed, because they're both huge components to the entire gun culture in the country. And you can't do one without the other.
Right.
So I spend a lot of time with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, which I've become a national spokesperson for. And that is our mission, to make sure that we bring to light and expose all of the laws in our nation that are not effective in keeping our citizens safe.
And it won't be easy. This is
No.
one of the really troubling parts. Right now, everybody knows your son's name. But think about what happened after the Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin.
Right.
It was a big outrage. That was a much tougher case, by the way, for the prosecution than the Michael Dunn case.
Right.
And people will say, oh, we want Zimmerman to go away, make it go away. But what happens when it goes away? Has the law changed?
Right.
Is the outrage still there for that? No, they're outraged at George Zimmerman. But so we're trying to help. The media has to keep talking about these things.
Absolutely.
Painful for you, but important, because otherwise the dialogue doesn't happen. Now, you guys are of one mind in wanting to advocate, let people know your son's life will have a legitimate legacy.
Yes.
But you are divided on something. When you look at Michael Dunn, you see a possibility for forgiveness. You do not.
That is correct.
Why do you see that? His position would be the one most we're more comfortable with. I never side against a wife. I want you to know that. Mom is always right. But how? How can you?
I think a lot of that also has to do with gender. For a man, it might be harder for him to have forgiveness. For women, we are creatures of emotion. But more than that, my faith commands that I do. And I cannot not forgive Michael Dunn when I was teaching Jordan to love, accept, and forgive despite whatever has happened. And I never imagined that I would be called by God to forgive Michael Dunn. But if I did not forgive him, then I could not continue to do the work and make this the legacy for Jordan that we've really tried so hard for it to be.
The struggle of the questions that come up about faith when something so wrong happens, and yet leaning on it so heavily to help motivate something that otherwise is so difficult for a parent to survive. That is incredible strength for you. And while you say you will not forgive,
Right.
you say you would visit, you would speak to the man and say,
Well, the reason why I said I will not forgive is because, to me, you have to be remorseful. You have to say, you know what, I killed this kid. Maybe there was another way out. You know, maybe I shouldn't have killed this kid. He was never remorseful. His family hasn't been remorseful to us, haven't come and apologized for the death of our kid. they all just think of each other. You know, they have, even if they have to visit them in jail, they still have their child, you know. So I feel that if you're not remorseful and you say if you had it to do all over again, you would do the same thing because you felt that you were defending yourself, then how can I forgive you if you're not remorseful for what you did? You mean to me that if you had 10 times to do it, you would kill my child 10 times because you don't think you did anything wrong. And I cannot forgive that because my child was a wonderful child and you took something away from our family that we'll never get back.
I know this is a conversation you wish you never had to have. We will be there. If this is retried, we will cover it. We will cover the bigger
you so
issues.
much.
It's not always popular. It's not always easy. As hard as it is to imagine, in your position, there are many on the other side who believe that these laws are the right way, and that's why they were passed in the first place. We will cover the issue. We'll do it every chance we get.
Thank you
Again,
so much.
I'm sorry to meet you this way, but thank you for telling your story here.
Pleasure talking
All
to
right.
you.
Good luck going forward. Kate?
Thank you.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. Let's take another break, but coming up next.